Wayne Gretzky said he didn't skate to where the puck was, he skated to where the puck is going. Demographics say the puck is headed straight into one of the biggest turnovers of small business ownerships we've ever seen. Millions of boomer-owned companies will change hands, some to family, some to buyers, some will just close. That's the Silver Tsunami. On today's episode, Dennis and I break down what this massive generational shift really means for local economies, for retiring owners, for the next wave of entrepreneurs ready to step in. We'll dig into what this shift means for real people, not just the Wall Street numbers. How millions of business owners are preparing to pass the torch, how communities will feel the impact when Main Street changes hands, and where the next generation of owners can step in and build real wealth through business ownership. We have a great show for you today, so grab a cup of coffee, sit back, relax, and welcome to Monkey Business Radio. Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Collins, and as always, I'm here with my business partner and good friend, Dennis Siggins of the Cape Cod Gutter Monkeys, or as you know him on the Cape and the Islands, Bobby Downspout. Hello, Dennis.
How you doing, Chris? Doing good. Good to be back.
So today's subject is a little bit off the beaten track, but it's becoming more and more apparent and more in the press lately, and it's called the Silver Tsunami. Have you heard about that before, Dennis?
I think you opened my eyes very recently as to what it's called now. But yeah, it's the baby boomer effect.
Yeah, the baby boomers. So being a baby boomer ourselves, we're kind of on the tail end of it. I think it's 1946 to 64.
64,
like
I think
that,
they call
right?
it.
So we're right on the tail end of it.
Yep.
So a lot of this applies, we're kind of looking at it because we're in that boom, and so we're kind of paying attention to it anyway. But a lot of people don't know that this is coming along, and it has big impacts on employment, ownership of small businesses, and things like that.
Everything. Housing, healthcare.
It's incredible.
Shifting of wealth, massive.
It's really shaped our past. We've lived through it. We were talking earlier before the show. Back in the day in Framingham, we were growing up, huge baby boom. And what did they build? How many of those schools did they build? Remember they built those?
Well, I grew up in the town of Framingham, and there was about 8 or 9 of these identical schools that were all built between 60 and 64.
Yeah, like in 4 years.
And they're still there.
Yeah.
They're all still there.
Yeah. I don't think they're all schools anymore. They become other things now, but because they don't need them as much. But yeah, so the baby boomers are coming through. Got some statistics out there. 11,000 people a day turn 65.
It's a lot of birthdays.
A lot of birthdays. This is a big number, though. 55 and older owners control 51% of small businesses in America, but they only make up 20% of the population. So they have a huge impact on business ownership and employment in this country. But only 75% of these businesses believe that in the next 10 years, they're going to retire out. So you can imagine this is a huge, and they estimate it's something like 10 trillion in business equity or business valuation is going to change hands in these years. So it's this huge wave coming of baby boomers turning their businesses over to the next generation, whether it's family or whatnot. So it's kind of interesting. And only 30% of small businesses that change hands make it to the second generation. So
in the same
30%.
family. When they're kept in the same family, yes.
Only 30%, and then ends up going to the third generation. It's only 12% of businesses in America.
Yep.
So it's going to be a big change. It's a lot of opportunity, both for the sellers and for the buyers. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about today, kind of get your opinion and your experience because you're living it day to day. And of course, you advise your clients as well in these certain circumstances.
Anytime there's a major movement, economically, socially, it creates opportunities. Too often we hear on the news and through our politicians and stuff, their own agenda as far as which side of the fence they're going to be on. But the truth is, whenever a house sells, somebody loses a house, somebody gains a house. Mm-hmm. Somebody takes in some cash, somebody gives up some cash. There's a yin to every yang. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Right. So, yeah, the boomers have been doing this since they were boomers.
Right.
We watched it. The high schools in Framingham, the 2 public high schools, went to double sessions when I was in middle and high school.
Yeah, I remember that. North and
double
South.
Session. Yeah, they didn't have enough seats in the classroom to handle the amount of kids.
Yeah.
And they were turning middle schools into wings off the high schools or satellite high schools for a year or two. It was a crazy time to be in school in the 70s in the town of Framingham. I'm sure other communities had their challenges, but that was the baby boomer effect.
Right. And you saw it kind of ripple right through the economy from school buildings, housing increases, Eventually, their kids got to college. So there's this massive expansion in colleges, college attendance. And now we're seeing it kind of in the medical world, right? We're seeing this rapid expansion of medical services for the elderly. And all these other things. So they're just kind of moving through. I remember someone described it as almost like this boa constrictor, and the baby boomers, that bubble kind of moving through that boa constrictor.
Through life.
Yep.
In the 80s, I remember very clearly, I started buying and selling real estate in the 80s, actually late 70s. And there was a 7 or 8 year period where you could close your eyes and throw a dart at the newspaper, back when we had newspapers, and pick that piece of real estate and buy it, and you're going to make money on it.
Yeah.
The boomers, a piece of the legacy was they were building larger homes with more square footage than ever before. I remember my son did a school project on the square footage of housing every 5 years from the time the boys returned home from World War II until probably 2005, when he did this project. And I remember the massive jump in the 80s. This was in the hippies. These are the boomers. The hippies from the 60s and 70s cut their hair, climbed in the shower and cleaned up a little bit, and they went out into the workforce in great numbers with great energy in the 80s. And they were then called the yuppies.
Yep.
The yuppies was that next phase for those hippies, and they knocked it out of the park. The houses they built were massive.
Yeah.
And it changed. There was a shift in housing because these yuppies now could build their own houses.
Mm-hmm.
And they were building bigger houses, more elaborate. And that paved the way for somebody like me, being the sort of the tail end of the baby boomers, to be buying up homes that were sort of cast aside.
Yeah.
My first 2 or 3 properties, I bought the worst houses in the worst neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Moved in, and my roommate was a table saw for that next year, and we would just clean them up, polish them up, rebuild them, and sell them and move on. And yeah, the boomers have had a tremendous effect on the economy ever since they were born.
Yeah. And it continues to this day. Now they're aging out.
Yeah.
And now we're looking at facts along the lines of something like 1 in 4 small businesses owners are going to retire within 5 years.
It's huge.
25%.
Think of the opportunities it's creating for the next generation.
That's $6.5 trillion at stake. That's what they're saying now. So
it is estimated right now, I read this just earlier today, that more than $68 trillion will be bequeathed to the baby boomer offspring in the next 25 years.
God.
$68 trillion. This great wealth transfer is expected to make the millennials the richest generation in American history.
Oh my gosh.
Imagine that. The millennials are going to be the richest, possibly.
Yeah.
Depends how they handle it. Are they ready for that?
Yeah. But unfortunately, there's also statistics that say along the lines of inherited money only lasts a generation, and it's pretty much gone by the second generation. Same sort of slope off,
Sure.
50% of it's gone after a year, after first generation, and 10% is left or something along that lines.
I had made a couple of notes. I'm in my mid 60s. My kids are all in their late 30s to 40. And I remember when my kids moved out, they watched my wife and I own businesses, sell businesses. We would buy businesses and resurrect them, put them back on a paying basis and sell them. We were flipping houses. We had a blast. And my kids all said the same thing when they hit their mid-20s. They said, Mom and Dad, you guys made it look so easy. It's so much harder than we thought.
Yeah. But that's what we were all doing it. I mean, everybody I knew, we were all moving into homes that had to be rebuilt.
Yeah.
My first home with my wife, Sandy, was a place up in Nashua, complete regut. Our next house as well. It wasn't until our third one that was kind of new. So yeah, it was a couple of years of rebuilding and stuff like that. So
my daughter will still bring that up. For 10 years of our lives, my wife and I were innkeepers. We had a bit of workaholism, each of us. So we decided to sell a lot of our properties, and we sold a business or two that we owned, and we became innkeepers. And it was sort of a forced effort to live a more laid back life and spend more time with our kids.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're an innkeeper, you live in the inn, you cook there, our staff would be changing over the beds. We were always in the place. We were always around the kids. It was a great time. And afterwards, my kids they didn't even realize it was work.
Yeah.
They didn't know Mom and Dad were working. Yeah. They just thought this was a giant playground and everyone's having fun. And Katie Rose, my daughter, she always says that you made it look so easy.
Yeah.
We just thought everybody could flip houses and make money. Dad would disappear for a day and a half and he'd come back and he'd put a new roof on one of the houses or something like that. All my kids were really seriously in their 20s. They were shocked at how challenging and how difficult life was. As they got out into the real world, each of my kids has had his or her own business at one time. And of course, they had mom and dad as their mentors, their consultants. And all of them said the same thing. Basically, they didn't realize how much work it is. And a lot of times when the person who owns and starts the business makes it look great, makes it look easy, passing that business down to your children, sometimes they underestimate the effort.
Yeah.
They think that if mom and dad made it look easy, then it must be easy.
Yeah.
Some level of this will occur during this great transfer of wealth and businesses.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an interesting time. And I guess for today, we're going to kind of talk about both sides of it. We're going to talk about, what can buyers expect coming along? There's going to be some incredible opportunities. And then also sellers. What do sellers have to kind of look at? If you're in that group of people thinking of selling within 5 or 10 years, you really pretty much got to get on it because it takes about 5 years average, what they're talking about if you look in the press, but about 5 years to, prepare a plan to sell your business. We're actually looking at selling a business here.
South Shore is right now a corporate owned territory.
Yeah.
We're actually meeting with a group tomorrow on a Zoom who's interested in purchasing that as a franchise.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's on your plate right now. And
It
you
is.
kind of like to
It
get it off
definitely
your
is.
plate because, again, you're not going to be working 90 hours a week the rest of your days either. So,
well, one of the things that we at American Gutter Monkeys look for is an individual and a team that is focused on its territory. We run 2 territories right now. So we have 15 trucks and 25 employees running 2 territories. And we would like to sell one of those territories and several trucks and then kind of reel things back in so we can focus, as we have been, on Cape Cod Gutter Monkeys and have a new franchisee focusing on their new territory, the South Shore, which runs from Plymouth, Mass, just south of Boston, up into the Weymouth, Hingham area.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So why don't we kind of dive into it? I guess if you want to talk a little bit about, let's talk about the owner side of it at first, I guess. If you're in this situation, you're looking down the road, 5 years, 10 years down the road, you realize you're not going to be passing it on, or maybe you are going to be passing it on. What do you got to start thinking about and what's on your list of things to do?
I've sold a few businesses in my time. It's really exciting. It's often said, the best day as a boat owner is the day you buy your boat, and the second best day is the day you sell it.
Yeah.
Okay. There's some truth to that. In the business world, buying and selling, it's very exciting. As a seller, it's never taken me 5 years to sell a business. It usually takes a year, year and a half.
But more along the lines of 5 years of prepping. If you're not
prepping,
getting ready for it, you got to get your ducks in a line. You spend a lot of years getting your ducks all kind of in a row already. So you kind of move into it. But
on the flip side, I believe the buyer is the one that should also have a game plan in place. That buyer should be looking 2-3 years out as to when he or she is going to purchase a business. If you look, if you're 30 years old and you have 2.4 children and you want to own a business someday, are you going to start one on your own from scratch? Are you going to partner with somebody? There's a lot of options that you have. And as you said earlier, Chris, one of our favorite sayings around here is, some people go to where the puck is, but I want to go where the puck is going to be when I get there.
Yeah.
You want to look 3 years out, and that puck is the transfer of a business. And you want to be where that puck is when you get there and when it gets there. You want to get there at the same time. I just still think that a strong savings account, a good financial portfolio, and a lot of financial literacy is absolutely essential for both the seller and the buyer.
Right.
But especially the buyer. Oftentimes the seller, myself as a starter and owner of many businesses, I had a passion for the business. Sometimes the buyer may not have that same passion.
Yeah.
I find a lot of potential buyers today are looking more at the feasibility, the economic feasibility, the potential profitability of a business, as opposed to all of the businesses I started. I was intrigued. I was interested. Sure, the profitability is there, the profitability is there in almost any business.
Mm-hmm.
But I always had a little bit of a passion for whatever it was I was doing. So I want to find a seller. I want to find a buyer that has a similar passion for that. And that's difficult.
Yeah, especially in this business, the gutter business. I mean, we see a lot of guys come through. Most of these guys are basically financial guys. They're not really wanting to own their own business, get down there and get up on ladders, right?
Sure.
So they don't have that same, they've got a passion for the finance, but I don't know if they necessarily have a passion for the actual business itself. So,
but then also there's when I sold the inn, I sold it to a bunch of people that were much smarter than I am, or I was at the time. There was a group of 3, and 2 of them had MBAs, and 1 had a master's in the culinary arts. And my wife and she had an associate's degree in secretarial, and I have a bachelor's in finance from Bentley College. We're not overly educated. We're well educated, but not overly so. And the buyers were 3 people who all had bachelor's and master's degrees.
mm-hmm.
They struggled at the beginning, and then the business failed after 2 years. Being on the outside looking in, because I still lived in the region at the time, and I did work with them a little to try to salvage it, they just didn't have the work ethic. They didn't have the grit. They didn't have the creativity. They were just missing, obviously, the 3 of them. Not a one of them had that key ingredient, that magic powder that, makes everything work.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to document that sort of thing when you're selling the business. You're going to need grit.
Yeah.
You don't want to hand the business over to somebody who's not going to be successful. You don't want to see your business, all that work go down the drain. So it's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to find. And that's what we're finding now. People are coming through the door and looking at some of the businesses you're selling now. It's going to be challenged. And that's kind of what we're found already. It's this, a lot of it's coming in. It's old money represented by either the children of the old money or friends and family. And
correct. Yeah.
It's not the same as, coming in, a guy coming in the door that's been up on a roof before or something like that. It's a completely different sort of sale.
If you look at some of the things, Chris, that you were pointing out in this great transfer of wealth, one segment is the businesses that are owned by the boomers. They're either going to be given away or transferred to family members, kids, nieces, nephews. Some of them will be sold, and some of them will just be closed. The owner will close it down and sell the assets.
Yeah. There's a couple of articles actually in this area. We're in a fairly, congested area, big population here on the Cape. But you go out in Midwest and places like that, some of these main streets in some of these towns are basically built of these businesses, these 65 and older, 55 and older businesses.
Yeah.
So when they go away, what's going to happen to them? What's going to happen to these main streets all over America? It's going to be a bit of an issue and a bit of a problem. Again, it's a great opportunity for people living in that town to become the new, florist shop or whatever. But are there going to be people there to pick it up? They're going to have the money. They're going to have the skill, the education.
Yeah. Yeah. It's legit. I know that here on Cape Cod, a lot of the restaurant owners are 55, 60 on up. And I do know a lot of restaurant owners that are a little bit younger than that.
Do you see a lot of multi-generational owners, I imagine, on the Cape?
I don't know the owners that well, so it's hard to say.
Mm-hmm.
I do know the restaurants have struggled significantly on Cape Cod since the beginning of COVID. Once a lot of these restaurants started opening up, it was hard to staff them. Our federal and state governments were paying potential employees more to stay home and sit on their hands than they could make working. So it was very difficult for the restaurant owners on Cape Cod and other areas too to staff. A lot of them have gone to 4 and 5 days a week instead of 7, especially in the summertime. Because the summertime, the population on Cape Cod triples and quadruples. I mean, some towns like Provincetown, which only has a year-round population of, I think, 3,000 or a little bit less, they go to 50,000 in the summertime.
Oh,
I mean,
gosh.
It is amazing. Dennisport, in the town of Dennis, it's one of the villages within the town of Dennis. It just booms in the summertime. There are just so many of these small cottages that just fill up, from Memorial Day to Columbus Day. And the restaurants were still struggling to stay open. It wasn't because of lack of business. They had plenty of business. They just didn't have the staff to keep it open 7 days a week.
Yeah.
That's something that's getting better. I'm starting to see young people again, teenagers and 20-somethings actually working in restaurants again for probably 4 years. We go out as a group on Wednesday nights. We do Wednesday night dinners. And boy, you're hard pressed to see a young guy or a young girl working in a restaurant. Now we do see them quite a bit. So I think that's changing. But the ownership, I don't know. That's an interesting piece to this economic puzzle.
Yeah, you're going to see the same sort of bloom in people interested in owning a company. And of course, there's great opportunity here, right? Because these companies are already been up and running. You don't have to do this from scratch. It's not like you're starting a new roofing business, by going out to Home Depot and buying your first hammer. You can go in and buy a company that's ready to go. So there's a lot of opportunity in that. So, but are there going to be the people there that have that grit, that have that want to, to build something, to own something? We always talk about, building real wealth through business ownership, and we believe in that. Are we able to, or are people going to be able to figure that out on their own and work towards it?
You are right. Second generation ownership, second generation wealth, they treat it differently than the first generation who started those companies, who built that wealth. Chance favors the prepared. Sometimes the buyer or the children, the family who inherit the business or have it bequeathed to them, sometimes that level, they don't prepare themselves. Their chance is not prepared the way their moms and dads were, the way the original founders were. And that's going to be interesting. Regardless, Chris, huge opportunities occur every day. And in these next 15 years, more opportunities than normal are going to be created. So, Chris, just the other day, I was reading some data on this topic. And check this out. The mean net worth for all baby boomers falls between $970,000 and $1.2 million. That's the mean of all boomers. That's the boomers that start a little bit younger than us and go to 20 years older than us.
Yeah.
They're millionaires.
Yeah.
This is the generation where they're all millionaires.
Wow.
Or a huge, huge portion of them are millionaires.
Yeah.
And this is a major league statement. This is such a massive transfer of wealth. You can say it is estimated that more than 68 trillion will be transferred down. That's just such a macroeconomic number.
Mm-hmm.
But when you break it down, it's like everyone who's a boomer is probably a millionaire or close to it. That's a powerful statement. Now, it does say net worth. That includes your home and your investments and this and that and the other thing. But business owners tend to be on the wealthier side of average. Business owners also tend to have a bigger net worth because they not only have their home and their automobiles and their retirement portfolio, they also own businesses that have assets.
Mm-hmm.
So these business owners that are getting ready to step aside and transfer ownership in one way or the other, these are the wealthier. They're on the wealthier side of average of this millionaire generation. And this is a phenomenal opportunity for their kids, for their heirs, for their families, but it's also a phenomenal opportunity for other people, for everybody.
Yep.
If a business closes down, another one has to open up and pick up that slack, or that's just going to get evenly dispersed amongst the remaining businesses. Right. If one business closed down, if one restaurant closes down, people are still going out to eat. They're just going to go to different restaurants.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
This creates little sort of micro bursts of economic activity in everybody's community all across this country. Mm. Yeah, opportunities are going to be created. This is going to be a fun 20 years.
Yeah. And it kind of goes back to chance favors prepared. If you're aware this is going to happen and your finances are good and you're got your eye on the ball, you got 5 years to get ready to do it.
A couple of the businesses I've sold have not made it, including the inn. But a lot of times you look at it and usually it's the changes that they make. Every time. How many startups have you worked for?
Probably 4 or 5 now.
Sure. And how often when it's sold does the new ownership come in and say, there's going to be no changes made. Everything's going to stay the same.
How many hours do you have to discuss? My most successful one, I will tell you, my most successful startup, we were actually bought by Cisco. And they took the product and immediately it was destroyed within, it was not in production after 4 years, within 4 years.
What was the product?
It was a web server, basically. And it was competing against an interior project that was already in Cisco. And those guys thought they knew better, just like sort of like the inn, all the mistakes we were making and all the things we were doing wrong. And they tried to build it into their product and it failed miserably. They should have just run with what we had because what we had was loved by the customers. So yeah, but in most every case of the startups that I've been with, that's usually what will end up happening. You get it taken in and you have some sort of internal project or something like that competing against it, and it kind of absorbs it. And
think about the
that's how it
average
goes straight.
boomer. How many times do you hear from Chris? You and I are both in our mid-60s. How many times do you hear from a 30-year-old kid that, you boomers don't know anything because you can't land a man on the moon with your cell phone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of these boomer-owned businesses are run in an old school fashion with pencil and paper.
Yeah.
Right? They have a landline with an office staff. And sometimes my younger franchisees, they try to run their franchise that way. I have an office staff of 4 ladies who run my office, and we have 20 guys in the field. You got to have those guys in the field or the work won't get done.
Mm-hmm.
But you also have to have your office staff. You can't do that from a cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe when you're a startup, you think you can, but it's very, very difficult to grow a home services business without an office staff. And so one of the components we're seeing now is businesses that are being transferred down to the next generation from an old school baby boomer who kept his records on old school spreadsheet with pencil and paper, being given down to the 30-something son or daughter who wants to bring it into a high-tech level. And that's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, yeah. There is some opportunity to do that, to apply tech correctly. But like you said, if you don't understand the underlying business and the underlying importance of customer relations and all these sort of things,
Sure,
you can destroy it pretty quickly.
Sure. We had a plumber down here on the Cape, 20 years ago. The dad was my age, and his sons, they're probably in their early 40s, late 30s, early 40s now. And I remember about 15, 20 years ago, the 2 boys, they were green. They were like 20, 21. They were just taking over the business. And the dad, he's a little older than me. We were maybe like mid-50s at the time. And the boys just didn't have the customer relationship skills that the dad did.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I stopped using them. They didn't return phone calls. They didn't show up on time. And I found a plumber that did. My first mechanic here on the Cape, I was using him before I even lived here. We had the house here in Cape Cod for about 15 years before we moved to it. We built the house in 96, but we didn't move down until 2010. But I had a mechanic here, and he was great. You walk in, and he greets you. He says hello. He takes good care of your car. Just bringing the car in was always a pleasant experience. And Steve turned the business over to his son. And he had no personality.
Yeah.
He was a jerk. And we stopped going there.
Yeah.
We just stopped going there.
Yeah.
Because he just wasn't a nice guy like his dad,
Yeah.
And now we have a new mechanic. And that kind of stuff is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Steve's son is as good of a mechanic as he was. But I know he did not have the people skills that his dad did.
Yeah. There's so much that goes into it.
Yeah.
So much.
Yeah.
You sell the business, but the skills, the customer service, the relationships that you built with these people, it's easily lost.
Yeah.
But good opportunity too. I mean, I'm sure, yourself in particular, there'll be a lot of opportunity for consulting and stuff like that to keep these businesses sort of going down the line too once they're sold.
I love watching our company grow and seeing guys step up and ladies step up into positions of higher importance, higher responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult. Not everybody finds delegation easy.
Yeah.
A part of delegation is incentivizing and rewarding, and it's not an easy puzzle. A lot of business owners were the best at what they do. The roofer, my older brother, he was a really great roofer. He was fast. He was efficient. I mean, when he and I were in our late teens, early 20s, we were just streamlining the process of roofing. We were young, we were strong, we were good athletes. We worked hard. And we'd be out there on Saturdays and Sundays roofing. And my brother used to say, Saturdays and Sundays, that's when we gain our advantage because everyone else is back home resting and relaxing. Yeah. And, when you're 23, 22, whatever, I didn't have kids yet. So, yeah, you can work really hard. We had a passion for roofing, my brother and I. And not everybody has that passion. Yeah. I don't think my sons had that passion. Mm-hmm. My oldest son wanted to take over one of my businesses, which was a roofing company, until it came time. And he just said, I don't really want to do this.
Yeah.
So he became a writer. Totally
different direction.
Totally
man.
different direction. He's actually, he might be listening right now, but Dustin admits it. He's allergic to tools.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to climb ladders. He doesn't want to sweat.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
You did all right.
But
we talk about, I mean, you become this sort of thing. I know it's on a lot of our podcasts, you talk about, surrounding yourself with the best and 5 people around you.
Sure.
Or you're the average of them, but you're becoming one of those people you ought to surround yourself with, right? Because this is now an advantage people could take, if they bought one of these franchises. And actually, our franchisees, we kind of talk about this all the time too, is that you're one of those people that they should be surrounding themselves with and listening to. And
I think so. Without patting myself on the back, yes, I have a lot of experience, not only with self-employment, but specifically in the trades, and even more specifically in our field, which is gutters.
Yep.
I was a roofer for 35 years. I've been a full-time gutter monkey for 11 years, and I'm really good at it.
Yeah.
I'm very, very skilled at this, but I don't think that's my best skill. I think my best skill lies behind the scenes in back-end operations, team building, incentivizing and growing the team. Yeah, you got to have a great team in your company, but also within yourself. You've heard us talk about this. You need a banker. You need a lawyer or 2. I don't mean a litigator per se, but you need a business lawyer. You need an attorney for other types of things. You need a financial planner.
Mm-hmm.
You need an accountant. You need a business consultant. Yes.
Someone like yourself, if you're thinking of buying a business, or you want to take this opportunity, it's sitting out there. These are the kind of things you got to start doing, but you can't do it the day you decide to buy the business. You got to start way in advance.
You
right?
do.
So it takes years to kind of build these relationships up. And so it's never too early to start.
Start building your circle before you need them.
Yeah.
Don't wait till you need a lawyer to go find one. Don't wait till you're in a bind. You need an accountant. I did a series of financial seminars, Chris, over the past 2 months. And the final one, it was a group that had been to each of the first 2, and they were all like 40 and over. And the name of that, or the subject of that presentation, was building your financial retirement after the age of 40.
Yeah,
it's very interesting.
We actually did a podcast on that one.
I think, and that was during this time that I was doing this group of presentations. One of the key takeaways to this is, for each of the attendees, go out and meet your banker. Connect with a financial planner, because we're going to need to meet with him in 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Don't wait till you're starting to fill up your financial waterfall to go meet a financial planner. Go on out there, interview 1 or 2 of them. Yeah. Talk to your friends, your family, see who they're using. Find a guy or a girl in the financial world that sort of shares your thought process. Mm-hmm. Do that before you need them. Same thing if you're planning on buying a business. I mean, if your mom and dad own a restaurant and you want to take it over, don't just go in there and keep cooking and being an employee at that restaurant. Start thinking like an owner. Mm-hmm. Start planning like you're going to be the owner. Take all the good things that your mom and dad, the owners of that restaurant, the founders of that restaurant, take the good stuff that they're doing and look for areas of improvement. How can you streamline, and talk to the right people 2, 3, 4 years before you're going to take it over? Mm-hmm. Yes, right. Because chance does favor the prepared.
Right.
Yeah. Chris, you put together a couple of items here, and let's talk about, you call it the UVP, unique value proposition, price, product, and promotion. This is a really interesting one for next generation. Look at what happened to the price of dinner, to go out to dinner since COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just...
We spent $73. I had myself, my wife, and my 2 grandkids, and they're 2 and 1.
Okay, so they don't eat much.
It was $73 when we got done. It was insane.
Gosh. I would say when we do our Wednesday night dinner, sometimes I don't have a drink. Sometimes I might have a beer. Bruce will usually have a beer. Andy doesn't drink. Maybe if we go out with 6 of us, there might be 6 drinks ordered.
Yeah.
But we average between $50 and $60 a person.
Yeah. It's incredible.
And we're not fine dining.
Yeah.
We're just going out at nice restaurants.
Yeah.
And, one of the things I do see with ownership change is price changes for product and service. I go to Charlie the barber here in Sandwich on Cape Cod, and his 2 kids, his son and his daughter, have pretty much taken over the operation. Charlie still comes in and cuts hair from like 6 a.m. till 10. And then his son and his daughter, they stay on all day till about 6 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember they were still charging $12 a haircut. This is right before COVID, even from like 2015 on. And I was saying to Steve, you got to raise your prices.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've got to. And, I remember they were talking with their dad and he was very reluctant. And that to me, and their dad is my age, Charlie, that's an example of the founder needs to change. And we're only talking price, but he's reluctant to.
Yep.
And COVID came along and everything got expensive.
Yeah.
Especially things like that, in the hair cutting business, you're limited to how many people you can have in at one time. And, it really drove the price of getting your hair cut. And finally they went to $25. I still give them 30. I'm a good tipper. If it's 12, I'm giving you 15. If it's 15, I'm giving you 20. Well, right now it's 25. I give them 30 or $35 to get my hair cut. I like them. They and their coworkers need to make a good living. Mm-hmm. So I just up it to the next increment. If it's 25, I usually give them 30 or 35. Mm-hmm. And they have had no significant, I'm in there all the time. I always talk business with those guys. No significant drop off at all. Prices went up. And finally, they're making really good money. The individual employees over there are making good money. That's just one of those little changes that needed to be made that Charlie, I believe, was somewhat reluctant to because he'd been there so long.
Yeah.
And he's got all his regular customers. They're paying $12 and they have been for many, many years. And, that's a business that I'm watching that gradually turn over to the two kids. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's
interesting.
Nice. It's interesting. And plus the two, right, the values of these people's lives. The dad's probably got a home. It's paid for.
Sure.
He's probably got money in the bank, like you said, retirement.
Yeah.
So he's probably a set where the kids are coming online. They're not like that. So they're going to need these price adjustments because that's just going to be the nature of the business to keep them and their kids
and even
clothes.
Diversification of products.
It's a big one.
Years ago, when we were kids and growing up, you go in, you get your hair cut and you leave.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's products on the shelf.
Yeah.
You can buy that. You take it with you. It's a whole nother component to the hair care business.
Yeah.
And health and beauty aids in general.
Right. Well, you talked about your friend that did the rug business, right? He brought in a new shampoo or a new cleaning product.
Yeah, Brian.
Sells it alongside the product.
He does.
It's a new thing. So it's a new way of expanding the business out. Yep.
He's actually grown a lot. I talk to Brian all the time. He's in the process of buying yet another van and bringing on another 1 or 2 employees. He's really grown nicely over these last 5 or 6 years. And again, not to pat myself on the back, Brian started talking with me and he became part of my circle about 10 or 15 years ago. We just got back together. Our kids were all grown and Brian and I have always stayed in touch, but we talk a lot now and we make recommendations to one another. And he's made a lot of changes in these last couple of years. And I've watched that company probably double in size.
Yeah.
And I was just talking to Brian the other day. He owns Lovejoy. It's Brian Lovejoy's his name, Lovejoy Carpet Care out of Milford, Mass. They're buying another van. They're growing again. So yeah, it's gone well. And there's another one where his son, John, is very likely going to take over the business. Brian and John have a rather interesting father-son relationship.
As most fathers and sons.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. But it's very likely that within the next 2 to 3 years, Brian will probably step away completely and John will own and run the business in some form.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's occurring. It's occurring all over the place. Brian is maybe 3 years younger than I am. He's probably 61, 62, something in that range. Mm-hmm. And he's getting ready to retire. And this is one of those businesses that is going to change hands. And I strongly believe they will continue on their growth. Wrapping up, Chris, on the topic of the boomers, it's really interesting, that whole generation. I think it was the book, The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell, where he highlighted the small classroom sizes in the 30s and 40s. It was the Great Depression, immediately followed by the involvement of America, United States, in World War II. And there were not a whole lot of babies being born during that time frame.
Right, yeah.
And classroom size was smaller. And yet there were still plenty of teachers and loads of schools. Mm-hmm. So it's not like, the number of buildings were shrinking and the number of teachers and school employees were shrinking. It was just the school enrollment. And the boomers was the complete opposite.
Yeah.
We just turned the corner after the war. The soldiers came home, they got married, and they were having big families. And the boomers have just drastically impacted each decade as they grew.
Yeah.
This massive group of babies turned into hippies in the 60s and 70s. They turned into the yuppies.
Yeah.
And they just, every decade that they came along, they took it over.
Mm-hmm.
And they had such a tremendous impact. And the next generation has the potential to take the baton and run with it.
Right.
As we said earlier, the millennials, if for no other reason than the transfer of $68 trillion in wealth, have the greatest potential. They have the potential to be the wealthiest generation ever.
Yeah, that's incredible.
It's amazing.
Incredible.
And there's a lot of truth there.
Yeah.
A lot of opportunity coming.
Yeah.
And
we always talk about that on this podcast. It's just how you look at things, everything from COVID, the opportunities during COVID, the business opportunities we always talk about, it actually exists. Just kind of the way you look at it. There's always something there. It's just you're prepared and ready to go. And, it's a great opportunity no matter what's happening. So this definitely sounds like this is going to be a big economic and big business event. So we'll see how it kind of plays out over the next couple of years. It's certainly sort of playing out here and playing out with the businesses, and our friends and things like that.
Yeah, it's happening right before our eyes.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Interesting.
Cool.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you, Chris. And no monkeys were harmed in the making of this podcast.
That's right. Talk to you next time. Bye. Thank you for tuning in to Monkey Business Radio. If you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to subscribe, like, and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps us reach more aspiring entrepreneurs like you. And if you got a question or topic you'd like us to cover, leave a comment or reach out to us on social media. We'd love to hear your thoughts and keep the conversation going. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review if you found the episode valuable, and make sure to share it with anyone who might benefit from our tips and stories. We'll see you next time. This podcast is produced by American Gutter Monkeys, LLC. Build real wealth through business ownership. For details, visit us at AmericanGutterMonkeys.com.